So I've been here 8 years,
Uh-huh.
and my initial idea was to come to Taiwan for a year, travel, see, understand what is Taiwan, because I actually had no idea what the country was or who lives here or any idea of the cultures. So I was like, I'll go to Taiwan. What
Just
is this?
because.
Just because.
No way.
No, yeah, no plan. Just I came here with a single backpack, and now I have too much stuff. Before I came to Taiwan, I knew who I was and what my core principles were. And just knowing yourself before you move somewhere else. A lot of people move to try and find themselves. And I
Mm.
don't personally agree with that because you're just going to take on lots of other things and you're just going to end up being confused if you're not finding it first within yourself when you're moving somewhere. Like, oh, I'm going to escape or find meaning and go to India or go to Thailand
Yeah.
or go to Taiwan and be like, I'm going to maybe this is the place for me. Um, sure, maybe it is. Maybe you're going with the right mindset, but oftentimes like you can go with the wrong mindset and you'll just go in. What is it? Was it Paris syndrome? You had the Japanese going to France and then having mental breakdowns because it's not what they hoped for
Mhm.
and what they were buying into.
Hi, I'm Sharon Landon, and welcome to the Old Asian Lady Show. Today, my guest host, Helen Lee, is going to introduce our guest today.
Hi, everybody. This is Helen here again. And thank you so much, Brandon, for taking the opportunity to come in and chat because there's so many of us right now are thinking about living abroad. Not no longer just a regular tourist, but then to really live to experience because everything is so high tech nowadays. We can take our work overseas. We can live without have to learn the language, the basic essentials. It's sufficient because nowadays we have Google translations.
Right.
But you are really something different because you just went. This is what your eighth year now,
Yep, this is my 8th year.
and wow, and you're still enjoying every minute of it.
Yep, absolutely. I love it here. So I've been here 8 years,
Uh huh.
and my initial idea was to come to Taiwan for a year, travel, see, understand what is Taiwan, because I actually had no idea what the country was or who lives here or any idea of the cultures. So I was like, I'll go to Taiwan. What
Just
is this?
because.
Just because.
No way.
No, yeah, no plan. Just I came here with a single backpack, and now I have too much stuff.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Wait a minute. Did you met a girl here or something like that, and you decided to stay? Come on.
No,
You
no.
met her at the bar and you fell in love and decided to stay here.
No, no. I came here for a year
Uh huh.
and just kind of I just wanted to get away from the States. It was my first time living out of the country.
Wow.
The year before I was in Europe for about 6 months, but that kind of gave me a spark to see like, oh, what is the rest of the world like?
Where?
I was in Romania. I was doing Romania. I was finishing up coursework for university there doing
Oh, you're an
archaeology.
archaeology.
Right, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was doing archaeology there for 6 months, digging up really cool stuff and really being embedded in the culture kind of gave me an appreciation beyond being a tourist somewhere.
Mm.
Because for those 6 months, you're not just going from site to site or restaurant to restaurant.
Hmm.
You're
Living in.
living with families. We were all living with different families there, and it gave me an appreciation to understand where other people live and what they're going through. And I guess that really helped me coming into Taiwan to be ready to accept a different culture, completely different from what I was used to in North Carolina. Um, but yeah, so I came to Taiwan, stayed for a year, stayed for 2 years, five, and then after five, I came up to the decision of getting my permanent residency here and understanding like what are my next steps here to solidify my life. Now that first it was coming for a year. Okay, I want to extend. Maybe I didn't save. I had too much fun. I didn't save enough money. Too many times at the bar. Too many vacations. And so do 2 years. And then about 2.5 years go by, and then I had this thought in my head. It's like, well, I'm really enjoying life here, and I'm already 2.5 years in, and it felt like an instant.
Mm.
Like it really wasn't very hard for me to adjust. I wasn't missing home, and for me personally, I didn't actually miss home at all. I still haven't had any homesickness other than the occasional fast food like Taco Bell or like Chick-fil-A.
They just opened one up in Hawaii. I was just there. Finally, Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
Chick-fil-A.
yeah, so good. That was the first place I ate when I went back a couple weeks ago on vacation to California. Um, but yeah, no, so 2.5 years went by, and I was thinking, like, what is the remainder of my life back in the States? And the longer I thought about that, it's like if I go back home, I have to buy a car again. I have to do insurance, and then I have the car. I have to get the car insurance and find a job that makes sure it pays enough, and then finding rent and my family is very accommodating, very helpful, but I didn't want to live under them to kind of build
Mm.
myself up. I wanted to start from zero. I wanted to make my own history, I guess, or
Mhm.
or what I wanted to do. So I decided like, well, I'm over halfway to 5 years. Why not finish out the 5 years? It gives me great status here. I don't have to worry about my health anymore or what I'm doing in Taiwan. And yeah, so I hit that gap. But right before 2.5 years, I woke up one morning and I'd say about 2 years, I woke up and I realized where I wasn't a traveler anymore, or I wasn't a visitor, because I didn't view myself as a tourist when I came here. Um, but I realized I wasn't a visitor anymore because I woke up. It was like a Sunday afternoon. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful day. Look
You
out the
remember
window.
everything.
No, no, this is like a
Yeah,
big
exact, right?
moment
Yeah.
where I was just like, wow, I'm bored. And just the idea of me being bored was like, wow, like
You're home.
I'm home. Like, like there's not anything exciting for me to do. Of course, Taipei has a lot of interesting things to do. I could have done anything that day, but I woke up, I was like, I don't know what to do.
So that was the moment.
That was the moment. And I still remember that vividly. I don't know, like that was the one moment I remember. I clicked. I was living in Zhonghe at the time,
Hmm.
and this I think was right before I was looking for homes up in Danshui, just to kind of go to a different place because I have antsy feet. I constantly want to move different places. Like, oh, what if I lived in this neighborhood? But I was in Zhonghe at the time, and just like, yeah, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm bored, and I had a scooter already, and I could have traveled. I could have gone to Bitan or up to Danshui or Sanxiao or wherever. But I was just like, yeah, and that's when I knew it was like, oh, well, I guess I'm home. Like, there's no.
That is interesting. I have never heard that that was the spark that, revealed the
Boredom.
moment.
Yeah, boredom.
Boredom.
Interesting.
Or just boredom. Like, oh, I guess I have to do grocery shopping today. And slowly, like, of course, like you have your life back at home, or anyone traveling or in my same position, where it's like, yeah, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna go do this trip this weekend or something, now it's like, oh, on Saturday, I'm just gonna go to Costco.
It's almost like you're dining at a grand buffet, and then the moment hits when you feel your tummy say, I'm full.
I'm full. Like, I'm okay.
You're okay.
Or sometimes you go to the buffet. The word in I think psychology or whatever is like choice paralysis. Like too
Yes.
many
Mm,
options. You're like,
yes.
I don't know. It all sounds great. I have no complaints other than being bored. Um, but
Wow.
that's how I figured it out. And yeah, I've been here 8 years, full time.
I mean, it sounds such a smooth sailing. However, I'm pretty sure there's been one of those moments. Do you have any of those moments that you dread
And my
about?
dread about.
Oh,
So,
please.
unfortunately, I've had a pretty smooth sailing time here in Taiwan. Already, I was knew I have this mindset of
Mm.
being like loose like water and being accepting of change and not being pent up if I don't know the language fully yet or I don't understand the context of like I'm in a store but they're asking me something or I'm trying to find something or I can't find this bus stop or I missed the bus because I don't know Chinese yet or my Chinese isn't that great. But I take everything in stride instead of getting frustrated or angry at something that maybe I don't understand how things work in a different country, not just in Taiwan. This happened in Romania when I was transferring into the country. I was trying to take a train in Budapest, and I was with a bunch of people. I was fine, but everyone else was stressed out because there's like, oh, we bought the wrong train ticket, and they're yelling at us. We're like, oh, we're in the wrong line. And it's like, oh, we're just on the wrong line. We'll get there eventually. Just knowing that life is a journey, I guess,
Yeah.
is my mindset.
Aw.
That's kind of why I've been so successful and so relaxed moving here and adapting to a new situation. I'm sure if I moved anywhere else in the world, I would probably have the same stories where like I've just had funny things where like I wake up bored or be like, oh, what's this? And I find with a lot of people that are traveling that when they go somewhere, they expect their own culture to fit exactly where they are, and they get frustrated if they can't find the same exact thing or the same customs or expectations. Or it's like, oh, why doesn't the waiter bring me the water at this restaurant? Oh, this restaurant sucks.
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
restaurant is self-service. It's a different place,
It's
right?
the mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. And the mindset of that you need to accept that you need to learn another language if you're moving to somewhere else. I've met lots of people who are great, but they are very stubborn. They're very stubborn in not learning Chinese or learning Romanian. When I was there, I tried to pick up some Romanian a long time ago, but they were just like, no, everyone needs to bend around me about my life and not understanding that traveling and seeing other cultures, you're supposed to be more open and understanding and empathetic to other people and knowing, oh, people are living their lives this way and it's completely different than mine, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And you
Like
have to
that.
respect that.
And you get to respect that and understand that everyone lives differently. Like I could never go back to suburbia because it's no longer my mindset. Whenever I go back home, I'm like, I don't think this is for me anymore. Like
Where's
Taipei,
everybody?
where is everybody? I need a car. I can't walk down the street to a 7-Eleven.
Yeah. How is it when you go back home for a visit? I mean, for me,
Mhm,
I find that because I've changed so much
mhm,
and people at home are still the same,
mhm.
it's you can talk about things
Right.
in your new life and their eyes kind of glaze over
They
after a
was like,
while.
we're not in Taiwan, Brandon. You
Yeah.
have to do the American way. And I
Yeah.
take myself back and be like, okay, like, yes, yeah. And then the reverse, where I get more reverse culture shock than I do going into any other culture shock
Exactly.
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you get so used to, for me, traveling and being open, you get to be like a chameleon. You get to try and mimic and understand and be part of society here. Like, I'm actively trying to be a good person here and understand the culture I'm in. Where an American, like, my own personal background, you're just like, I'm American, and you don't
Yeah.
apologize or anything.
Yeah. I think sometimes American culture is just a little
It's rough.
rough and out there. I remember, and the fact that, oh, it's my way or the highway kind of thing. I was working in Shanghai,
Mhm.
and literally there was this lady, because traffic is terrible.
Right.
Drivers wherever,
Yeah.
China, Asia, a lot of places. But this lady literally was going through her culture shock moment, probably one of many, because she was standing right in front of a car that was trying to pull out into the road, and she was yelling and screaming at it and telling them that she is not going to move. She's not going to move.
Because
They have to.
Yeah, what?
Because she just
pedestrian has the right of way? Wait.
it's well, China is a lot worse than Taiwan in terms of road culture
Right.
or paying attention to, I mean, Taiwan is not that
Right.
great
Yeah.
in a
No,
lot
there's
of
a lot of
times.
issues there.
But yeah, it's the thing with the culture shock. Sometimes you don't really feel it right away, but it's like if you're living in it for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months where it's not what you're used to at all. Some people hit the
Hit the brake.
yeah, no, they just hit the brick wall and they can't go any further. And for her, that was her culture shock moment. I mean, literally and this was in the middle of a main street, across the street from a 5-star hotel. And yeah, sometimes people do that. And I think she was an American or maybe Canadian because the accent
It's
was
like,
American.
It's like, why are you respecting my space right here?
Yeah.
Don't you know I'm standing here?
Yeah, so you never had that cultural shock moment, just the
No,
reverse.
just the
Yeah,
reverse for the
yeah.
most part. But actually, Helen, I'm going back to like actually, I would say like I would have like microaggression thinking back more and more for the first year or two. Like I'm going from a place that had at that time under 1 million people for I would say the greater New Taipei area, New Taipei, Taipei City, for that whole state under 1 million people. So like I had space, and you're walking down the street, you have lots of space. But for a little time in my life here, I was just slightly grumpy. Why is everyone bumping into
Mhm.
me
Yeah,
or walking really slow?
You need your
yeah,
space.
I made my space, but then I realized, and I was like, oh yeah, well, these people or Taiwanese people, people living here in Taipei,
The
like
population density.
yeah, the population density, and they're just used to like everyone going in the same direction or at the same pace, or just kind of you have to go with the flow. There's no pushing or shoving anymore. You can't
I,
just sprint down the street.
yeah. I think it's a cultural thing too, because like you said, most Western cultures or Americans specifically, they have like um, a aura, or not an
Oh,
aura,
like a
but an
bubble,
area of private space
right?
that's theirs. And a lot of times in Asia, there's not that much of deference or paying attention to
Hmm.
that, because privacy, not only in space, but in other issues,
Hmm.
are also quite different.
Right, and it's really different because people are living their lives on the street here. So you have your public space, you have your private space, but in many places, also in Taiwan, I notice in Taipei, New Taipei, especially when the denser areas, that you have a they call it like a third place. I think that's what it's called, where people are living their lives. You see the aunties and uncles, they're cooking their dinner with their gate open in front of the restaurant. They're living. It's like the sidewalk is halfway their living
Yeah,
room, and they see their friends, they wave hello, and people going by. It's also still their personal space, but they view the public space in front of their house or in the general
yeah,
area like that. And you
yeah,
don't get that where I'm from in the States
yeah,
at all. Where it's just like, yeah, no, my home is my home. No one can see, no one can hear. Like it's my personal space.
yeah.
What do
It's
you
quite
prefer?
different.
I really enjoy the third place. I enjoy watching and observing. I'm constantly observing. I love photography. I love viewing people, and I make my own little stories, or I view like observational comedy for myself of like what is that uncle doing over here at the end of the road, or what is he doing? It's just like I don't understand, and I laugh because I don't understand. And sure,
Mm.
like he's doing something important, or kids are running around the street, or whatever, or someone's fighting or whatever. And you're like, oh, it's life,
Yeah,
It's community.
right? It's
yeah,
community,
It's
and
community. Community is so hard to come by these days,
mhm.
with the technology improvements and everything. But yes, that's the beauty of it.
Oh yeah, and I get to meet so many people in my community here versus in the States. Like I go to 7-Eleven near my house. They know they know my coffee order. They know what I want at 9 o'clock in the morning every day.
Oh, it's
Or
the American guy.
yeah, it's the
yeah,
yeah, it's like saying the white and it's like oh I know yeah that's me. I don't show that I know Chinese as much now. My Chinese still is not very good, but like I my listening, like I'm always aware of like what they're speaking about or
yeah,
whatever. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
thank you, or like no, like I go to Bafang near my house or wherever. And like, oh yeah, I typically get like eight of this dumpling, eight of this dumpling. The lady at the counter is like, oh, here you go already, like it's ready to go. Get out. It's too busy, too many people behind you. But yeah, no, even as a foreigner here, like I do feel a sense of community, even though I maybe can't communicate effectively even after 8 years, which I would say is my own fault. Um, just because like I worked really hard for 5 years to make sure, like once I knew that I wanted my visa status here, I wanted to be a permanent resident.
Mm.
I knew to get it, I needed to make certain amount of money or make sure nothing was wrong with my visa status and clear it. So my focus for my first 5 years was just work, 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 work. And now that I've been here longer than 5 years, I can kind of take classes now and get back all of those times in confusion where like mistranslation or something. I was in I was buying age once in Danshui, and I was scooting away from the place, and I remember this out of my thing. They looked, this couple was sitting in front of me, and I had to scoot around them. Um, Instead of saying, "Oh, like 不好意思 or 对不起," I say 不客气. They just look at me, what? I was like, why they look at me funny? I said, excuse me, right? And I was
Nope.
just thinking, I was like, oh, I was just thinking back. It still haunts me.
At
Five
least it
years
wasn't worse than that,
Right,
you know?
yeah. Like to be more effective now.
Yeah.
And many times now I go to 7-Eleven, they're like, oh, do you have the Hoyin card or the Zaichun? And it's like, yeah, I do. And you're like, what? Foreigner has it.
It was really funny the other day because it's rare that people think that I'm a foreigner. But I was at Xingdian. I was going to go to Wulai to go to the hot springs, and I went to a 7-Eleven to buy my girlfriend a coffee while I was waiting for her. And there was a special deal going on. You buy two and get one free. And so I was asking her, "Oh, do I have to have a member, be a member?" And anyway, I'm speaking to her in Chinese, but obviously she can still hear my accent and stuff like that. And so anyway, we ended up getting my two cups of coffee. I didn't get the one free for
Why?
complicated reason because you have to buy two of the exact same thing to get one. And then it was just really crazy. And then so she rang me up and I said, "Oh, do you need my membership number?" And she says, "Oh, foreigners don't usually ask for that."
Yeah.
And I was like,
You
"What?"
being labeled.
It was really weird because it's usually the opposite way. They
Right.
don't. And I said, "Oh, but I'm from Taiwan. I was born here in Taiwan." And she goes, "Yeah, but you you have an accent or you sound like a foreigner." I said, "Oh, okay." So anyway, I gave her, that was her excuse for not asking me for my membership number, but still,
Oh.
I thought that was the first.
They play with numbers funny here. They or I say it's funny because I still view it in percentages. Where I see a sign for a drink that has 85 on it,
I know what you're
and
I
I was
know
like,
what
oh,
you're
it's
saying.
85% off. No, it's
No,
actually
it's
15. It's
15%
15%.
off.
And I'm
That's
just like,
the Asian way.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
It took me a while to understand that fully. As you
I'm just
said.
like, oh.
Because the first year, well, the first
What a good
few-
deal.
I know.
Yeah.
I was excited. I'm like, I gotta get this, and then you're like, wait a minute, no, it's not. It's reverse. Why is that?
I don't know. I still haven't figured that out. I've just
All
accepted
right,
it.
we need to look that up.
Yeah.
In the language.
But
I
but
think
would you highly talk about language? Would
Mm-hmm.
you highly recommend any of the listeners out there who is thinking about traveling abroad or experience an expat life to actually learn the basic
I would
language?
say yes, absolutely. Anywhere you move, of course, you want to be able to communicate. If you can't communicate, it makes life a lot harder. I remember hardships of when I first came here. That didn't bother me, but I would come through hurdles either like banking or trying to ask people. I would always have to ask coworkers or friends who knew better Chinese to like borrow their time to help me. Like, I don't know how to go to the hospital, or I don't know what to ask at the hospital, or I would go to NTU because I wasn't comfortable going to the local doctors. Just I didn't know that the local doctors existed. Other than I always had to go to the hospital, and they're like, "No, just go to the ENT doctor down the street. It's right next to your house, Brandon." And I'd be like, "Really?" Because I would go to the hospital for like a cold or just something
Yeah.
very minor, and it's like, "Oh, I have to get my ticket and wait," and be like, "Oh, it take a long time." It was like, this would have been so much easier if I just understood there was a doctor next to my doorstep.
Yeah, the clinic.
Clinics.
Yeah, local clinic, yeah.
So the language is very important.
Yes.
At least to learn the basics, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Learn the basics. Or you even have like a notepad of what you're using. I relied heavily on Google Translate when I first came to Taiwan and even Romania, of translating just basic things or understanding the best way to take your idea of what you want. Because you can type really complicated sentences in Google Translate, but it'll spit out really confusing things.
Yeah.
It'd be like, they look at you and you're like, I swear I put my McDonald's order or my order for dinner. It's like, okay, no lettuce plus tomato, whatever. And you just have to, until you're getting better with your language, and be like, maybe it's easier if I just make a simple request for them to understand and see if it goes that way.
And also, I think it also bringing the distance between you and the locals because it's almost like a way of showing respect,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Oh yeah, so I would go places when I was still learning Chinese. I'm still learning it. I'm learning every day and practicing. Is like so many people are just so thankful here in Taiwan. Like you go down south, you say a little bit of Chinese, they're like, "Oh yes, I'm going to help you now. You are my foreigner. I'm going to make sure you're happy because
Oh,
you spoke just a little bit of Chinese. You showed effort, and people respect effort here in understanding. It's really ridiculous. Just even the slightest bit of saying like hello or like eBay. They're just like 不知道. It's like 可以帮我? It's just like they're like, oh yes, I'm going to help you. I'm going to pull out my phone and translate to English for you. So we both are trying to connect.
Aw.
That's happened many times. But yeah, no, definitely. Number one would be like language or understanding that you need to try and translate your whole life now into a different language until you learn the basics. And if you're going into ESL for a different country, I would say try to teach English. For my background, would be English education right now in Taiwan. Um, Teach young learners. They're the best coach. They're the best teachers that you could ever have because in any language, you have 6 or 7 year olds. They're going to speak with very simple grammar. They're going to speak with very simple words. They're going to speak slower. You're going to be able to pick up student conversations first, and then you're going to pick up conversations on the street. And you're going to ask your friends, my student keeps saying this. And my friend would be like, no, just don't repeat that. They keep talking about butts. or other like childish things. Or like, well, at least I know what that word is, so I can catch them. Or like, they're always saying like, teacher, what's this? What's this? What's this? Or why? Or where is this? Or can I? Or the first kind of prepositions or that you need to learn when you're learning. So you're learning from the students as much as they learn from you when it comes to English teaching. But if you're working outside of English education, I'm sure like pick up a tutor, um, get into involved as much as you can to your own extent because it's stressful. It can be exhausting, especially if you're working full time. But it's definitely worth it in the long term to learn that. I just remember my first year, I was just completely illiterate. And I was okay with that. I came to terms with that. I wasn't frustrated with myself of being illiterate here, but I knew in the back of my mind that I was being handicapped from my experiences here in Taiwan. Kind of like when you first get your driver's license. You're like, oh, the whole world opens up to me. I can do anything now. I can do this. I could go to this part of the city now without help or relying on somebody else. I'm independent now. Kind of the same kind of analogy for there of like getting a driver's license. You're getting your Chinese license now, and it really opens up a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
So language, but
Mhm.
other than language, would you also said it's really important to understand the local law?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, always be understanding. Know the laws of where you're going. Yeah, you don't want to break any law. Just, no one wants legal trouble. No one wants to get in trouble and then have your visa revoked, or if you're on the wrong visa and you mess up one time, but you enjoy the country, you get deported. I've had a few unlucky friends who have put themselves in unfortunate situations just because of not doing their due diligence of what kind of visa they were on in Taiwan and also in other countries where they had, went through like a background check or something and realized, oh, you're working technically illegally and we can't let you do that, so you need to leave, and then you can be banned for X amount of years. But no one wants to do that. No one wants to be banned or have difficulties with the police because no one wants the trouble, right? But always, always, yeah, follow the law. Yeah, it's like number one. It's like number one with the number one. It's like learn the language, learn the law, learn your rights here, because Taiwan's very relaxed, very open. What is it? We're like the first country in Asia to accept LGBT like gay marriage, right? And like you go to other places, like say Singapore, the big one is like don't chew gum, don't do the very bad things there.
I remember that. That was the flocking thing
Hmm.
because of the gum chewing.
Yeah.
That was years ago.
Yeah, but like you don't want to put yourself in that situation at all. I
Mm.
mean, it's kind of like a depressing topic, but yeah, when it comes to like moving somewhere, yeah. Yeah, we can go. So yeah, basically, yeah, learn the language. Definitely do research on the local customs, not just the law, but local customs, so you
Mm.
don't offend anybody, and, and have an understanding that it's not going to be your same customs. You can't get angry, or you shouldn't get angry for most customs. And sure, like you could agree, you can disagree with a custom, but you are a visitor here, and I'm talking to people who are looking to move somewhere else, not as a tourist. You go to tourists, people are often more lenient and be like, "Oh, you're just here for a day or two. You don't know, you didn't do any research." But if you're choosing to live somewhere as a visitor and then as an expat later on, like that's something you should always be on top of or understand your status like that. And yeah.
And also just finding the balance, isn't it, between your culture and the
Hmm.
local culture.
Yeah, you do have to find a balance between yourself. You have to be kind of sure of yourself. Before I moved to Taiwan, I went through a transition where I didn't know who I was yet. And then before I came to Taiwan, I knew who I was and what my core principles were. And just knowing yourself before you move somewhere else. A lot of people move to try and find themselves. And I
Mm.
don't personally agree with that because you're just going to take on lots of other things and you're just going to end up being confused if you're not finding it first within yourself when you're moving somewhere. Like, oh, I'm going to escape or find meaning and go to India or go to Thailand or
Yeah.
go to Taiwan and be like, I'm going to maybe this is the place for me. Um, sure, maybe it is. Maybe you're going with the right mindset, but oftentimes like you can go with the wrong mindset and you'll just go in, what is it? Was it Paris syndrome? You had the Japanese going to France and then having mental breakdowns because it's not what they hoped for
Hmm.
and what they were buying into. And you can see that with a lot of expats as well if they're not careful, if they don't go out of their local bar or local like friends, where they don't try to embrace the culture and embrace the community and understand where they live, and they only stick to their own bubble of foreigners. They don't really experience living somewhere else or being part of where you live. And there's a lot of underlying things with that, but yeah, just have to be like make sure that you're independent and just know yourself. I mean, it's going to make transitions to anywhere in life much easier.
And also make you appreciate
Oh,
life,
absolutely. It
isn't it?
makes you appreciate life a lot more.
And appreciate your own culture too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I appreciate a lot of things back in the States, but I also appreciate lots of things in Taiwan. Um, just lots of examples. But yeah, no, you can appreciate both. You don't have to give up one. You can still transition back and forth if you choose to do so. And me living in Taiwan doesn't mean I'm throwing away my American life. I'm choosing to live in Taiwan because it's the kind of lifestyle that I like, and how I like living in Taiwan is a lot better for me in my context than it is living in the States. And sometimes people will do the opposite. You'll find people. I've had Taiwanese friends that I haven't seen in years because they found their place in Canada. They found their place in America. They view America differently than I do growing up and find our missing pieces to go there.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, why do you live in Taiwan? It's terrible." And I go, "Why do you live in America now? You should have come back to Taiwan."
Yeah, everybody's got their own journeys
Right.
and their perceptions and the way they see life at different times of their
Hmm.
lives is quite different.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't, when I was younger, I would have never thought that I was going to be back living here in Taiwan.
Hmm.
I mean, ever. I never thought that I would be working in China for as
Hmm.
long as I did. Because living in the States, I never, I was always avoiding my Chinese culture or
Okay.
Chinese face just because you don't see very many of Asians where
Yeah.
I went to school.
Hmm.
So the fact that I'm now older and wiser, I would say, the wise old Asian lady, and back in Taiwan, yeah, everybody's got their things,
Yeah.
right?
I can relate to like not understanding or trying to find your place being in America. Like, I'm half Vietnamese. My mother was a refugee during the Vietnam War. And by the time that I was born and grew up, my mother was a completely Americanized. She has a really unique story. Um, but my grandmother came with her with nothing and just the support of like the extended family moved there with the hopes of like the American dream. And my grandmother had to make the choice of choosing how much culture to give and continue with my mother.
Mm.
And she chose not to pressure her into the Vietnamese culture anymore. So by the time I was born, my mother completely forgot her mother tongue. The only kind of Asian culture I had in my life was receiving a red envelope. Um,
The
every
good
January,
stuff.
the good stuff and the food. It was only the food where I would have cousins on my mom's side that still retain
Mm.
the language and going to school and running a restaurant. Um, but on the flip side, like people would see me where I'm from in North Carolina, predominantly white,
Mhm.
non-Asian area, non-Asian school. They'd be like, Brandon, you're Asian. Do you watch the anime? Do you watch this cartoon? Do you eat noodles every day? I go, no, no, I don't.
You know, yeah, isn't it funny? Because to some people you're Asian, but to
Right.
other people you're Caucasian,
Right. It
you know?
depends for me personally. It depends on the time of year. I go
Mhm.
between like Greek to Indian to Asian to Mexican. It depends on how dark my skin is and if I
Even
shave that day.
Turkish.
I
I'm
sometimes I
sorry.
go Turkish too.
Yes.
Yeah. I just it's I
I
can just chameleon, just blend in.
I totally get it. I mean, I'm Singaporean, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, all of those.
I fit the bill. So in university I would I would do extra work doing background and stand-in work. And whenever they would have a casting call, I would just do, oh, Hispanic looking. I can do that. I did that. Oh, like Asian looking. All right, I can do that. Or like they say like
That's
Turkish or
the plan,
wherever.
isn't it?
It's like whatever, Indian. All right, I'm dark enough today. Like send my face and majority of the time they're always looking for minority figures and for background and stand-in stuff. I most often I would say like I had a pretty good percentage of like 60-70% callback just for basic things. And it's like, yeah, my friends are like, how do you keep being brought on to these 1 day, 2 day sets for these movies and TV and film? And it's like they just need somebody not white, I guess.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can be all different. So you're interested in acting?
I was more interested the in the film production. I was
Okay.
more interested, and I just wanted to kind of view what it was like. Um, I like talking, I like performing, I like entertaining people, so that was always an easy thing for me to do. But I grew up really enjoying photography, and how movies were made. I loved all of Steven Spielberg's movies growing up. My childhood was me running around with a hat and like a piece of rope thinking I was like Indiana Jones or I have guns and be like Star Wars. My dad brought me up on so many classic movies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like I still have like all my movie thoughts in my head. It's like I want to make this really cool movie or this movie idea. And I just was like, oh, I'm in a pretty good hub. Atlanta's a couple hours away. I can yeah, I can make some money on the side and just kind of be part of the process and kind of look at the lights, look at
Yeah.
how the cameras, see how the process is, and it's an amazing process
Mhm.
to get film and television done. I still love doing that.
And did you study filming?
I studied photography
Mm.
for in university for a little bit. I did a couple semesters doing studio and film photography, and I only took that because I already had a passion beforehand. I kind of grew a passion into photography and art in
Mm.
high school. So as any of my electives in class in university would be like, yeah, studio lighting or processing film and just being hands-on with that, the creative process and how I view my life. So like I appreciate Taiwan. It's so diverse. I can go and do nature photography. I can do urban street photography. I can, yeah, going back to I enjoy observational comedy and just observing people and just having frames. You're like, that's a funny moment in time. And that's kind of brought it with the movies and
And with your photography talent, you won an award here a few years ago, didn't you?
Yeah, so I've been on the Taiwan news a couple times for their picture of the day or the picture of the
Mm.
week for drone photography. When drones first got really big here, I would say about 7 years ago, there was a time very shortly, there was a very short time where you could fly anywhere. There wasn't a lot of regulations yet. They've really locked down over the years. But yeah, I would just pick a place. I would drive up by the coast, or I would go in the city and I send a drone up and get really cool perspectives. They're still like post on social media. And then past this past October, I was brought on to do some promotional stuff for Taiwan Amusement Park. Um,
Mm.
just they sent me around to like 3 different amusement parks to send my own perspective to showcase because they're really building tourism for Southeast Asian people to come visit the amusement parks here and the water parks.
Right.
And that was a really cool experience because there are a lot of the amusement parks I had never been to. So we went to Li Pao and then Hualien Ocean
Mm.
World and then Yaleo and then the Ofu. So it was a great time. So I used that and gotten some attention, but then I realized that for my own personal health, that I took a step back. I was like, I lost the touch of I'm doing this for myself versus like trying to impress the local the local newspapers here or make a
Mm.
name for myself. But yeah, no, so I did that for a little bit. I still do on occasion, and I always carry a phone with me. I used to carry a backpack full of camera equipment, and it's like my back hurts now. Too much, too much. My phone is good enough for me right now. Now I carry 2 phones because each phone does 2 different things, and yeah, constantly. If you walk with me down the street, I'll look very quickly, take out my phone, take a picture, and then put it back in a matter of like 10 seconds. You're like, what did you just do? It's like, oh, I thought that was cool looking.
I gotta learn how to just automatically turn on the phone because when I want to take a picture, I feel like it always takes so long. I've got to put in my passcode or something before I get to the camera function or
Right,
anything like
yeah,
that. So many pictures I miss, but I'm not a
yeah.
photographer.
Oh no. I really enjoy like some of the Google Pixels. You can do that. iPhone is I still kind of struggle. Like, how does this phone work?
Mm.
Myself. But yeah, no, there's certain cameras where you just press the button twice, even if it's off and it turns on, and you just
Oh,
take a picture and then
really?
turn it off.
Oh, I wonder if my phone has that.
Yeah.
Samsung, I should
Maybe,
think of
probably.
that.
You could probably set up a Samsung phone to do that
Yeah.
very easily. But yeah, I
Oh,
carry that around. But in my time for living in Taiwan, pick up hobbies. Don't just go to a bar. Like I found and made a lot of Taiwanese friends through photography and through board games or like social events. And I think that's also very important for people to come here and realize if you're going to somewhere, you can't just stick to the same old things that
mhm.
you have to open up. You have to go into the scary unknown of, well, social interaction with people that maybe don't speak the same language as you, but have the same interests. Because if you have the same interest, I think that bridges a lot of insecurities for people who are wanting to talk with you to practice their English, and you're talking to them to practice whatever native language is wherever they are.
So would you highly recommend of joining and sign up the local groups?
Local groups, I know in Taiwan, Facebook is still very big here, but look ahead constantly. I would say for all of the things and the tips that I've given today,
Mhm.
just sit down, do your research, learn how to use the internet because that's becoming a skill being lost in time. It's all being taken for granted right now. Like, oh, we can just Google it. But just because you can Google something, you have to still understand like SEO and what's being targeted to you all the time and knowing like the proper places to go or understand what's real, what's not real,
Mm.
or what are the best groups. Because friends are asking, Brandon, where can I buy used electronics? It's like, do they have a place here in Taiwan and Taipei? And I just go,
Look it up.
look it up. Like, of course, type in used camera store, translate it, and like you'll find it like 5 of them in their same district. Where they're like, what? Um, and just throw out all assumptions for anything in life for moving somewhere, and just be like, okay, yeah, do they have it? Yes, they do probably, because people need equipment, people need home goods, people need anything wherever they go. Of course, you're gonna have it. Why not?
Just do the research.
Yeah, just do the research. Don't stop Googling things. Just don't stop. Constantly. Every day is constantly looking at something. What's this? Don't stop learning, I guess, is another mindset. Don't stop learning. Don't stop being open to things. Don't shut yourself down.
And don't stop enjoying it.
Yeah, don't stop enjoying it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy learning. Right? Would you also agree with that when you're traveling between places and just like constantly being open to not understanding what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I've lived and worked in so many different places. And I think the key of it, when I first moved abroad to work, it was difficult.
Right.
And I was still also in the mindset of I'm an American, type of thing. But, you kind of figure out, actually, you could twist
Oh
that
yeah, you could.
to your advantage or not. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can say,
Oh, so I'm
oh, I
sorry.
don't
I'm a.
speak Chinese, or,
Oh, absolutely.
that kind of stuff. But you really have to be open. I mean, I actually had a cross-cultural communication training company in Shanghai where we helped a lot of foreigners, corporate mostly,
Hmm.
that are coming in to work in Shanghai and how to understand the cultural differences. But the most important thing is really to understand your own culture,
Hmm.
because then you can tell, really be clear in what's different, and then also being open to accept, like you said earlier, other cultures and not thinking that your way is the only way.
Hmm.
A lot of people fail
Yeah.
working abroad or living abroad, and I think in general it's because they don't have that capacity of accepting, learning, um, and empathy.
Right. And I wouldn't say like it's stressful. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
I like I'm talking today where it's like, oh, it's very easy, just be water. No, it's very stressful for many
Precisely.
people. Um
Yeah.
And like I don't take that away because I try to coach my friends or people have already left Taiwan over the years. And I try to coach them. It's like, are you sure? Like I trying to be open for things, but they just get too stressed out. They need to go back to their home base. Or everyone has a different like gauge of like empty or full with how they can sustain it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't let the little things bother you
Yeah.
for things.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Always, yeah. That's what I constantly tell myself. It's like, yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. Just go with the flow. Just
Yeah.
relax. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brandon, for coming in and share with us because I know you for 8 years now. No,
Yep.
7,
Yeah.
if not. But everything that you said today is just so important
Hmm.
and so valuable because becoming an expat,
Hmm.
it's breaking away from where you're from
Right.
originally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then yet you have to be able to balance and retain what you had
Hmm.
and who you are as an identity.
Yeah.
Right. And then finding the balance because that's the beauty of it. So it opened up your mindset and you appreciate a lot of American culture
Hmm.
while respecting the others.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
Brandon, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, no
And
problem.
we would love to hear more.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love to share. I have so many smaller stories and stuff. I do have to say that Taiwan needs Taco Bell and Chick-fil-A. That's the only thing in my heart that's
And Dunkin'
missing.
Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts weren't, did they leave? They left.
They left it the year I got here.
Really?
They
I
left in
swear.
2012.
Ah,
But I just find that whenever I go back to the States or I go and try things that I haven't had for so long because I've been missing it and stuff, and it's not really that great.
yeah, no, I remember that actually. Like every time I go on and I joke about Taco Bell, but I remember the first time I went back, I was craving just Taco Bell for some reason, the fried meat and the cheese. And I got home, family friends got me a gift card for $50,
And
and I went to get Taco Bell and I ate it. And my parents asked me, "What do you think?" I was like, "It's all right. I guess I don't need it again." Like, oh, I'm good. Like, oh, it's just more mentally like I missed a certain aspect of
Yeah.
my former life.
it's not the food itself,
Yeah,
right?
It's not just the food.
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is just like you eat it and you're like, I missed it. Oh God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so thank you again for
No
coming
problem.
in. And then we would love to hear some more. But this is beauty.
Hmm.
Expect because the improvement of technology nowadays,
Hmm.
you are not away from home
No, never.
comparing
Never.
to 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, we could go on a whole the thing about like technology now versus stories that I've heard, and I have plenty of friends that could share stories about like coming here with only paper directions to get somewhere because they came before smartphones. Just like, how did you do that? Now that's would be a stressful bit, but yeah, for another time.
For another time.
Was I? Oh no, she was saying.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us today on the Old Asian Lady Show.
Bye.
See you next time.